Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Let's Get Cultured. I know it's been a while, but I decided to make this video about my experience in South Africa doing a study abroad slash internship program back in 2015. For people who are interested in doing study abroad anywhere, maybe this is a good video for you, but specifically I'm going to be talking about the South Africa program for museum studies at Michigan State University. Okay, first I would like to focus more on the experience of the study abroad program, and then I'll talk about more of the logistics of getting there. So, first of all, the program has a focus on museum studies. It offers an internship for 5 weeks at Iziko Museums of South Africa, which is basically, it's sort of like the Smithsonian of Cape Town. So, firstly, you do focus a lot on the social history of South Africa, of course, apartheid being a major part of that history. In the weeks leading up to the actual trip to South Africa, you do get to know your classmates. There were only 3 of us in the program. I think it was the year that the whole Ebola thing was going on, so I think that scared off a lot of people, even though it wasn't happening in South Africa. But yeah, I think that scared a few people off. So it ended up only being 3 of us. So we would meet up once a week, I believe, if I remember correctly, to get to know each other and then also to discuss some of the readings. They were definitely focused more on South Africa's social history, but I believe one of the books also had to do with museums in South Africa and how museums are used to basically correct the damage of apartheid. So that was definitely a very interesting look into museums. I was studying museum studies at the time, so that was my interest for this program. It offers an internship, which is a big deal. And you could go the curatorial route or museum education or conservation, and I chose conservation. Although we ended up sort of mixing it, we did do some sort of curatorial work. Not so much, maybe not, deciding the look of an exhibition, but we did do installations and deinstall exhibits. So once we got to South Africa, we more or less had an idea of the political climate. It helped in our understanding of how art is used in South Africa, which I feel it's definitely more politically charged than in most countries. I mean, I suppose art is always used politically. This week we were in Johannesburg and we got to go and meet actually a lot of artists, pretty big artists too. So that was, I never thought that I would get into that. At the time I was sort of starting to get into contemporary art. It wasn't really my thing, but I definitely started to appreciate it more when we went to the David Krook Gallery. We were all over the place. And I feel like artists in South Africa try to be more, they're definitely more interested in students of art and actually talking to people who would be consuming their art. So that's definitely a nice change. I was also getting into photography at the time, so I just went nuts. In Joburg, especially in Soweto and Kliptown, I took a lot of pictures. People were encouraging it. So our professors definitely have a more intimate knowledge of South Africa. Nate and Merritt, who, if you decide to join the program, they will be your professors. They took us to meet a lot of amazing artists and just interesting people. We definitely got more of an intimate look at South Africa than probably, obviously as a tourist, you wouldn't get to see any of that. Actually, when I speak to people about Johannesburg, a lot of people don't care for it. They said it was too dangerous, and that they prefer Cape Town. And I didn't necessarily see that when I went, but then, I mean, we went to Constitution Hill, we went to Arts on Main, and obviously, if you don't know what you're looking for, it's definitely more difficult to appreciate Johannesburg. Usually people say that they went to Soweto, and that's the only impression that they have. And they probably went on one of those buses, like a tourist thing, which is kind of weird. Now that I think about it, it is kind of weird to have like a tourist industry around seeing the townships. It's actually quite strange. When we went to the townships, we did, including the Cape Flats, I feel like we did sort of contribute to these places. A lot of these people, I think the unemployment rate in Soweto especially is like 75%. So especially when it came to buying things to take home, I preferred spending money in places where that money would be going to these people who wouldn't have employment otherwise. So we went to Pilanesberg and we spent 2 days there doing a little safari ride. It was definitely a nice break from, I guess, like the first week in Johannesburg was, I suppose, kind of emotionally draining to see the damages of apartheid and the fact that it had been like 20 years and it's not that much better. And then we went to Cape Town. So in Cape Town we spent Cape Town is where the internship is at. So we spent a weekend just like getting to see the area, and we went to Robben Island, which is crazy. I still can't believe that I went there. I can't believe that I've been to places where Nelson Mandela was. Like, I never thought I'd end up in South Africa. That's still crazy to me. And we got to start the internship. It's for 5 weeks. It's a relatively short internship, but we did so many things. Like, I mean, especially it's like the stuff of dreams, especially if you're in museum studies. A lot of places, they offer you internships, but they're not always completely hands-on. And that was my first chance to actually experience conservation work, actually cleaning mold off of jewelry, handling very old objects, helping. The craziest thing we did was probably disassembling some 200-year-old furniture and rebuilding it in another room. That was nuts. I never thought I would do something like that. And I haven't really had a chance to do something like that since, so I definitely appreciate that experience. The majority of the exhibitions that we worked on did relate to apartheid. We worked at the Social History Center, which is basically, it houses the collections of the 9 museums except I think the National Gallery has their own storage, but I think that some of it is still there in the Social History Center. So we did handle a lot of that. We helped with the installation of some of those objects in the National Gallery, and then Slave Lodge was really where we were most of the time. Up until that point, I wasn't really used to seeing museums as anchors for social change, which is ridiculous, but Miami, we definitely like more of the art museums, like contemporary art, and it's alright. I have my lovely little certificate of attendance. Definitely, if you ever get to check out, go to Cape Town, you need to visit all the museums. All the Iziko museums they're fantastic. Now, as far as the logistics of going, it's pricey program, but all study abroad is pretty expensive. I did a GoFundMe page, and a lot of people, you'll be surprised by what people will donate. I didn't think I was gonna get any money from that. I was also doing a paid internship at a museum, at a local museum in Miami, and they gave me enough that paid for half of the program fees, and then the rest I made up through GoFundMe and through my job. Oh, and then I did use some of my student loans. They actually gave me some extra money that I wasn't expecting to get, so that helped a lot. Honestly, I think the program fees, tuition, obviously if you're not a Michigan State student, which I wasn't, I was going to Florida International University, I had to pay my tuition to be able to get the credit for the internship, and I had to pay tuition to Michigan State. So if you are coming from another university, you should definitely take that into account. You're going to be paying 2 different tuitions, which I paid using my student loans. It was enough. Hopefully it's enough for you. But and then the flight was a bit pricey also. I think my flight came out to like $1,800, but there is a program when you go to apply, and I'll put all those links in the description. They give you a bunch of links to different sites, and I remember I went through some international student, I forget what it's called. I forgot what that program is called. I'll put it all in the description below, and they took care of the flights because it just made my life a lot easier. And they give you a student ID, which helps because that way you don't have to be walking around with like your passport or anything. You could just use that student ID, and it's enough. And it proves that you're a study abroad student. What else did I do? Honestly, those fees and the flights are definitely going to be the most expensive things about it. I don't really know what the currency exchange right now is in South Africa, but I think it was the lowest when I went. It was like 12 Rand to $1. You really won't spend that much money, because I remember that I took out, I guess not a lot of people go to South Africa, so if you decide to take out cash before you go, you'll have like a minimum, I think I had to take out $250 worth. And that lasted me, I think, for 2 weeks. I remember I used that cash all the way until I got to Cape Town. And honestly, I went through that money a lot faster because I was buying gifts to take home, especially to people who had donated to my GoFundMe page. But honestly, if I hadn't spent money on that, I think it would have lasted even longer. I definitely recommend just using your debit card. Don't use a credit card because they'll take a percentage out. If you have the cash on you, if you have it in your bank account, just use your debit card and everything comes out way cheaper. I mean, if you want, you could do groceries. I think where we stayed, I imagine that you'll be staying in the same place. That house was perfect because it was like it was, I think, like about 3 stories high. And there were plenty of rooms. It was sort of like a hostel type thing, but it had a studenty feel to it. And it was in a perfect location in Greenpoint, so you could see the football stadium from the balcony on the top floor. And there's grocery stores right around the corner. We would go downhill. I was just incredibly out of shape, so going up and down the hill was not that fun for me. But if you are an active person, it's perfect. And the bus stops were right there. I don't remember it taking that long to get to Iziko. I think we only switched 2 buses. I guess getting used to the cars being on the other side of the street was maybe the most difficult thing to get used to, and that's it. So yeah, you get to, it's not just all business. You get to have some fun too. We did a lot of, I guess, touristy things and then also more studenty things. So my camera died and I was basically talking to myself. Here's a quick clip of us in Stellenbosch doing some charity work for Mandela Day. There's Billy, and you'll see Emily in a second. I hope you guys do consider doing this program. It was absolutely amazing, and I will be including all the information you need in the description below.